Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, so today we're going to speak about Mujalla, which is the website. It's still under construction, but the website's actually ready. I just need to put it online. Mujalla is going to be an independent news site that's based inside Syria. Right now, I'm in Syria, and I've been here for about 4 months. I'll just say a little bit about myself and then about Mujalla, and then we can probably do some questions and answers. And I have with me somebody who's a Syrian civilian who is here with me, who will be able to answer some questions if anybody has any questions about what's going on here, and would prefer to hear it from a local. So, like I mentioned, I came here about 4 months ago. I came here as I wanted to help. I saw the situation was pretty bad, and I decided it was time for me to make some action rather than just speaking about it. But when I came, I didn't have any specific goals or anything, or what I was planning on doing like that. So I use yours. So, sorry, my microphone's off. Yeah, so I didn't have any specific goals or anything like that. I just really wanted to see what the situation was like, firsthand, and then I would know where I would fit into this. So during this time, I've been able to meet with different people in different organizations, different groups, both militant, political, and so forth. And what I basically came to realize is that if I wanted to do some good work and be able to do as much as possible, I'd have to do it independently. So I never did join any groups or anything else like that, and instead I decided I was going to work with my own capacity. And so right now, like I mentioned before, I'm living in Syria. I'm living in West Aleppo, and when I was thinking about what would be the best thing that I could do right now with my experiences or my experience in websites and so forth, and internet and technology, and also with the help of a lot of people around the world who've been asking me to explain to them what the situation is like, firsthand in Syria. Because what we've noticed is that the mainstream news, whether it's CNN, whether it's Al Jazeera, whether it's the various different news organizations out there, many of them don't report from Syria. Many of them are either based in Lebanon or in Turkey or in other countries, and they don't actually report directly from Syria. And most of the video you see is actually just you find somebody with a cell phone who takes a video using his cell phone and then uploads it to the internet. And then you hear many of the news organizations saying they have this video, but it cannot be independently verified, and so on and so forth. And so people always ask me, what's the situation really like? Because we cannot trust what we see on TV, what we see on the internet, because most of this is either coming from outside of Syria or from inside Syria, but usually affiliated with some group, whether it's a political group or a militant group. And in that way, obviously, some people, whether they have bias towards certain groups, or they just know that most groups are going to be working towards their own agenda. Personally, after thinking and reflecting on what could benefit, the situation the most, benefit the people the most, would be to show people the truth, the exact truth as it is, and what's going on. So that's when I got the idea of using this domain that I had, Mujalla.com, as an actual a news site. And not just any news site. I don't want to, it's not just going to be a site that's just about broadcasting news of the war or news of a specific group or a specific ideology or anything else like that, but a general news site that will be for any news that happens at least in my locality, and then the surrounding localities I hope that if this can grow, maybe I can get some correspondence in different parts of Syria to also contribute. But even, for example, one of the news articles we have is about the winter storm that was here about a week ago, or a couple of weeks ago, that there was snow all over Syria, and it was really abnormal. So this is just an example of what some of the types of news that we are working on is just anything that happens. But of course, also since we are in a country that's at war, there's going to also be plenty of discussions about the war itself, and this is when you know obviously just giving the news is not necessarily enough. That's just to really benefit everybody else other than the people of Syria. So when I was thinking about what can I do to actually benefit the people here on the ground, is that with this news, with the news source, obviously there's going to be certain things that will hopefully uh, touch people's hearts and make people think about helping the people of Syria. So also we're working on finding a way, because it's actually pretty difficult in Syria to receive money, but we are trying to receive donations so that we could use these donations to, in somewhat of a humanitarian way of helping people. Because while there's many organizations that do this, uh, the key word there is organizations, and a lot of them are working for their own agendas. Whereas I'm seeing on the ground that there's many people who need assistance, but because they're not in touch with these organizations, or these organizations basically are not getting in touch with them, they do not receive any aid. I was actually at a refugee camp just a couple weeks ago. The people there need help. Some of them receive help, some of them don't. And then I was also at a village, which we'll probably speak about in a little bit, that doesn't receive any aid and hasn't received any aid. It's considered like a forgotten village, because it doesn't. It's not under the control of the Assad regime, and it's also not under the control of anyone else. And it seems like it's just a forgotten place, and forgotten in many ways, especially in assistance. So these are people who need help. So hopefully, through showing the stories of what's actually happening here, not just from the war perspective, but also from the economic perspective, and from the weather and everything else that is happening here in Syria, hopefully people will realize that this is not and should never be a forgotten place, but it should be a place where people think about, and if they want to help, they will have a means of doing so without fearing that the money that they send, or the assistance that they send, because it's not just money we're talking about. We're talking about food, we're talking about clothing, we're talking about everything, that they can send it somewhere that they're not afraid it's going to fall into, quote unquote, the wrong hands. So that's basically the idea of Al Mujalla, which the word Al Mujalla itself means that which is shown or made clear. Something that we want to make clear to everyone, something we want to show to everyone, the situation of what's happening in Syria. And as I mentioned, Al Mujalla itself is not affiliated with any group, whether political or military or religious or anything like this. There's no group affiliation with Al Mujalla. Um, in that way, we can say that we don't work for anyone, for any specific group, yet we work for everyone, in that we are trying to present the truth as best we can, and trying to help the people here as best we can. Um, in that way, also, we keep good relationships with everyone here, with all the different groups. And if anybody wants to speak about the different groups or anything, we can speak about that. In our locality, for example, there's three major factions. Two are in the Free Syrian Army. One is in the Islamic State, and we have various connections with everyone. We don't care about agendas and so forth. So they have their agendas, but our only agenda is just to, as I said, to present the truth, and then, if possible, to receive donations to help the people in this area. So, a couple of the projects, and I'm just going to try to wrap up for myself, and then we can speak to somebody else. Some of the projects that Al Mujalla is working on, other than just presenting the news, is there's a village I mentioned before called Kefr Jum, which is also it's in the west part of west of Aleppo, and it's, as I mentioned, like a forgotten village. There's roughly 1,500 people. This is like about 300 families with their children and so forth. There's about 1,500 or more people in this village, and I was there actually with Osman just this past week, and we took pictures and so forth, and I made an article for the website on it, but which will be online hopefully in the next day or two, and we saw basically that people were in real need, especially medical need. They have bacterial infections that they have no medicines for. I mean, simple things. These are not like even very dangerous diseases, but they're still obviously a nuisance, and they can spread and so on and so forth. So the people, they just need medicine. In fact, I spoke with somebody there who he's a registered nurse. He's able to administer the medicines, but they just don't have any medicine, and no one is sending them anything. No one's helping them, and they attribute this to basically being in a situation that they're in a place where they're not being attacked by the regime, and no one's there to really help them. So they figure that if these people, they're not actually in dire threat because they're not being attacked, then we just forget about them. But the reality is this is not, how humans are supposed to deal with one another. These people need help. They have no flour to make bread. One of their major complaints is they just don't have any bread to eat. So, and this is not just here. There's many villages, many towns, even inside Aleppo itself. There's whole districts where people, they don't have bread to eat. So that's one thing. Another thing that we like I mentioned, we went to some refugee camps as well to see the situation there. We are planning on going back for some interviews. We spoke with some of the people there, and they want to get interviews so that they can have their place on El Mujalla as well. For each of these projects, we plan on having a separate website under El Mujalla where we can raise funds specifically for these individual projects, and that we can give them a place to speak, a place to tell their story. Everybody will have a place to tell his or her story. And so these are a couple of the projects. There's more, but I'm just going to let others speak. There's with me, sitting right next to me actually, there's a local from here in Syria, from West Aleppo, and we're in a town called Bishbatin, and this is Abu Muhammad. He he can answer any questions that anybody has. If anybody has any questions about what's happening to the locals here in Syria, and also he doesn't speak English, but if you ask the questions in English, I can translate for him in Arabic, and then we can get the question or the answer back in English. But I just ask if anybody does have any questions, make the question simple so that it's easy for me to translate. I don't want to get into complex translations. Did you want to say anything, Osman? Yeah, put your mic on.
Yes, my name is Osman, and I'm also called Abu Ibrahim. And I'm from Syrian, but I've been living in Denmark for 21 years. And I also came to Syria to help the people because I couldn't just sit in Denmark having a good life and knowing that people are under pressure, people are hungry, people are getting sick, women are getting raped, and all these things. So I came here 6 months ago. I was cooking in the parliament in Denmark, so I'm good at cooking. I'm educated chef. So here I cook food for the people, and we try to help the locals. I brought some money with me, but helping people makes you not get rich. But alhamdulillah, things are good. And, I don't know if you guys have some question for Abu Muhammad, or I mean, we basically just want to know what people want to know, because we are here. We will tell the truth. Yeah, sorry. Unplug the mic.
Okay, Jim. Long time no
Salam,
see.
how are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for coming on here. It's good to get the word from people who are there.
Yeah, go ahead. If you have any questions or you want to talk, you're more than welcome to. Like I said, I have someone here. If you don't want to take it from me, which I'm not offended. But there's somebody here who's a local who, if he has any questions, he can speak about, and I can bring other people as well. Obviously not right now, but the next meeting we can bring multiple people and anybody who wants to speak to the people here, because I just noticed that there's no real coverage. I mean, it really hurts me to see that even all these news organizations don't cover Syria like they cover anywhere else. And you could be a conspiracy theorist about it, and it's really hard not to be sometimes when you see that for the longest time, the states, for example, was the government in the states was anti-Assad, and now it seems like they're pro-Assad, and you don't know what's going on, and you wonder if there's really some connection there. But really, we're here, so if you have any questions or you want to say anything, then you feel free.
I've got mad respect for anybody that goes into Syria, or Turkey, or Jordan, or Lebanon, or Iraq for that matter. Anybody that's helping has my utmost respect. I'll try and speak low and slow so that you guys can hear. But
Okay.
I guess my main question is, you brought up some of the problems with the fact that there's no medications. How is polio and the different diseases, what is the state of different diseases that are going on in your area?
Okay. Hold on, I'm gonna pose that question to Abu Muhammad, and he will be able to speak.
I know there was leishmaniasis and polio that were becoming problems, and the World Health Organization was, mobilizing all the inoculations for polio, and also an organization that's close to me called the Syrian American Medical Society is very instrumental in getting some polio vaccinations into areas that can't get them, like Deir ez-Zor and areas under siege.
Right.
So,
how
are your efforts to get the medicine that you need?
Well, this right now, like I was saying, the website is actually not up. So in terms of the efforts are now starting. That's what I went down to Kefir Jum with Abu Muhammad and with Usman, and we took pictures. We interviewed the people, and the biggest complaint they had was they have in medical terms, they have something they called Habbat al-Ishmania. But I don't know exactly the translation of that. But it's not life threatening. But it's basically skin irritation,
Yes.
skin infection. Okay, and it's widespread through this village, and it's something that there was a registered nurse there. He was telling me that it's very easy to fix. It's just we don't have the medicine for it. It's he can give the inoculations and everything, but there are no medicines. So that's one thing we're going to try to work on, is at least for this village, because really we don't expect to have the means to take care of the whole of Syria. So we're going to start one village at a time. And this is a village of about 1,500 people. If we can help them out, that will be a great accomplishment. Just on a side note, before I ask Abu Muhammad to comment further on that, I know you're no fan of Assad, and I think most of us are not. But
I could go on and on. But
yeah, one issue that I've noticed here in Syria is that people, even if they hate Assad, one thing that a lot of them say, even though they hate him, they don't want him. They don't want him in power. But they do say that the cost of bread was cheaper when he was in power. The cost of things were always cheaper when he was in power, and things were just easier when he was in power. It was definitely less freedom, but it was easier. So one thing that I think everyone probably knows about poverty is that the helping hand is where the people go to. So if we can help the people, then we can show them that Assad is not the solution. You know, there are other solutions. There are other people in the world who are willing to do more than what Assad would have done for them anyways. You know, and I think that this is something that we can not stress enough, that if you give somebody, you know, $100 a month, he can live well here, you know, and that's not that much for many people in the West, you know, or in not even just the West, in wealthy countries around this area too. You know, there's if somebody can just give a family of, you know, 5 people, even $100 a month, this is more than enough for that family to live off of.
Right.
Especially in the time right now, there's no work and so forth, and this is another thing we want to help with, is trying maybe opening some restaurants, opening some shops, opening some different things, so that we can give the people, you know, a source of income as well.
No, I totally understand you, and a lot of people feed off that idea that, well, before the revolution, you know, people had food, people had this, people had that, but they were also on their knees, and they couldn't speak one word against Assad, otherwise they'd be taken, detained, and maybe disappeared. So, and now with the suffering being what it is, after almost 3 years, people are willing to do almost anything for bread. I mean, I saw a video yesterday of there was like a 7-year-old boy eating paper. So, you know, when you're willing to eat paper, when you're willing to change the religious edict so that you can eat cows and dogs and animals that are, you know, not you know, they're haram, well then, when they're suffering like that, people are willing to do anything. But from the outside, from America, there's still just a tower of lies and a tower of poor media that's lying about the situation. You know, they would sooner call anybody fighting Assad a terrorist before they were to kind of drop that classification and realize that people are fighting for freedom. They're not fighting for some conspiracy baloney. You know, they're not anti-imperialists. They're humanists that want to claim Syria back for themselves. They don't want to be under the Iranian regime. They don't want to be under Russian sphere of influence. They want their country back. You know, and I'm not Syrian. I'm not even Arab. But I can see what happened in March 2011 is an honorable revolution, you know, and so how do we get there? How do we help people, you know, get the food they need? How do we help people get the medication that they need? And beyond all that, how do we make sure that history doesn't drown out the truth with lies? You know, and I think that's what we're doing here. We're setting the truth straight. There's people like you and people like me in much smaller microcosm that's trying to help. You know, I might just be on my computer, but just last month we were able to help raise $100,000 for coats, hats, socks for people that are freezing to death. So, I mean, any little move is going to help. You know, I live in Chicago area in Illinois, U.S. People are constantly busy. If they're not protesting, they're fundraising. Riyad Fariz came, the famous Catherine Bell artist, just came through here. They raised a buttload of money, you know, because they know people are suffering. If he can get his face out there, if the banners from Catherine Bell will help people understand what the truth is, well, then that person's going to travel around. Just like people that lie for Assad, like Ali Deek and that nun, Agnes, that went around lying for the regime, saying that Christians are going to die and all this other stuff. Plain fact of the matter is there's people suffering. There's 9 million people that need aid right now, half of which are women and children. And there's, 3 million people outside the country suffering? How much more can Turkey hold? How much more shame can Erdogan get when the rest of the Arab world is not doing anything to help? You know, so I mean, the time's now to act. All the words are done. People are dying right now. There's 20 children that froze to death since the snows hit Syria, in Lebanon. People are suffering right now. So this whole bullshit about Geneva 2 and what's going to happen next and who's going to be the leader, all that ain't going to matter to some kid starving to death.
Exactly.
All that's not going to stop the polio epidemic. It's not going to put food on the table. It's not going to rebuild Syria. It's a bunch of political chess moves. So people on the grassroots level like you and other organizations, I personally know Karam, Sam's organization, there's many organizations that are helping. And they use very little overhead. Maybe you two guys know about Hand in Hand. That's another organization that's helping. They're sending ambulances and sending aid convoys and sending containers. I know from Utah, from Houston, from the east coast of the U.S., all those areas are sending containers to Syria. Now, it's all got to go through Turkey and then into Syria. Yeah. But if you can tell me as much as you can, specific-wise, what exactly people there are asking for. I want to know what Syrians want. I don't want to hear about what Reuters says. I don't want to hear about what Sana says, or Al-Dawana, or Press TV, or IRTV. I want to hear from Syrians. When I knew nothing 3 years ago, I went and looked for Syrians. I didn't go to the news networks. The Washington Post, the New York Times, Economist, all those people lie. They give you just a fraction of the truth. You got to look through that. They all have their agendas. Media are paid. We are not. I don't get a dime for what I do. And not that I need a pat on the back, but it just goes to show you, I have this in mind. I believe in freedom because I fought for it with my military service. And I think the people that are dying there for freedom, that are sacrificing themselves, they should be honored. Not only cameramen that die every day, but the aid workers, the medical professionals that are shot and sniped, people that are detained, artists. Everybody, all these people, they didn't know what they were doing 3 years ago, but they knew they weren't going to live on their knees anymore. So with that all aside, as much specifics as you can give me, I would appreciate. The world needs to know what exactly Syrians need.
Just a quick question. Can you hear my mic right now?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this is actually what Abu Muhammad, he's working with us. He's been of all the people in his locality and also in the village I spoke about, all the families, he's been getting all their names and all of the the numbers of children they have and the ages of the children they have, and we're going to see on a family basis what they need, but also in general we already know that the winter's here right now. It's cold and they need clothes, winter clothing. They need food. One big thing that they need is a source of fuel, whether that's firewood, because some people they have just firewood heaters and some people have diesel fuel heaters. So they need either diesel or they need firewood just to what? No, it's okay.
I know there was an effort to try and get solar panels up to you guys.
Yeah, see, and this is one thing I wanted to say is that all these aid organizations that send things, and don't get me wrong, it's clearly there's things here that definitely been sent by aid organizations. But whenever we go to refugee camps or we speak to the locals who have received aid, it's almost a resounding consensus amongst them that there's no way that they're receiving all the aid that was sent to them. And a big problem that is happening is whether it's happening in Turkey before it comes here, or whether it's happening here, that people on the borders, whether it's organizations, militant organizations, or possibly just the local sheikh of the area who's taking a big chunk of what is being given. For example, money. We know that money has been raised to give people money, yet no one receives money. They might receive the clothing and they might receive some of the food packages and so on and so forth, but the money that was sent to be given to the people never gets to them. And this is pretty much
I've heard that over and over again.
People. Yeah, so this is one thing actually we want to work on. I know from the little bit of economics that I've studied, I know that the people need money. They need their own money. They don't just need I mean, you can give them clothing, you can give them food and everything else, but if you really want to give them dignity, you give them their own money to spend, and so that they can buy what they don't want to tell you they need. This is one thing. Also, you know, I'll let maybe Abu Muhammad just answer first the question about the medical situation, and then the what people need, so you can hear from him. يسأل أولا عن الأمراض.
I'm well aware that the UN is giving money to Assad government, and half of that just gets taken right off the top. I'm aware that the Jordanian government also takes a slice right off the top. They sell it on the black market, So I mean,
for sure,
all these countries got their hands stuck in the cookie jar. Before it even gets into Syria, they take their slice right off the top.
Yeah, hold on one second, Jim. Let me speak to Abu Muhammad, and then also after that, I want to answer something that Mary is bringing up, and it's a very important point as well about the money. نعم، سأل عن الأمراض المنتشرة هنا، و يعني ما المطلوب من الدواء وكل شيء، وأيضا عن ما يحتاج الناس، ما يحتاجوا من المادات هنا في سوريا.
الأمراض صورت الصور هي نتيجة عدم الخدمة، الشوارع، الزبالة معبية الشوارع، فالبعوض ينتج عن الزبالة، البعوض يلسع الناس، فتسبب هذه الأشياء على الجلد.
نعم.
يعني حبة السنة، ما تسمى هنا حبة السنة، هي الإسبانيا، لا على ما هي
ليشمانياسيس.
نعم. بالنسبة لحاجات الناس.
Yeah. Basically, you said that the one big problem they have here in terms of illnesses is like what we were talking about, the leishmaniasis, that they receive basically from lack of cleanliness and so forth in the streets. They don't have the products that they used to always buy in terms of to keep themselves and their surroundings clean. This is one thing that they don't like living like this, but it's unfortunately this is what they have been left with. So this is one thing that he's saying that that's the main thing that they see is this leishmaniasis, which is they call it the can't even translate it probably, Ashmania or Habbat Sana, which is the ulcers of the ear, would be the translation. But وأما ما يحتاج إلينا،
الناس تحتاج إلى المواد الأساسية التي يقوم البيت عليها: الحبوب، الرز، السكر، الشاي، الزيت، السمنة. هذه المواد الأساسية. أهم شيء هذه إذا وجدت في البيت، بالإضافة إلى وسائل التدفئة من لباس، من غطاء، إذا أمكن نقود لشراء مادة المازوت لإشعال المدافع. هذا أهم ما يحتاج الناس.
He's saying that the main thing that people need are the essential items that a household needs to function, from grains and rice and burghul and sugar and tea and these types of things. These are the main essentials that people need. He also mentioned, and this is something I wanted to mention as well, that the money that can be sent here, which I'll answer Mary how that money can be sent here, the money will be used to buy things like fuel, because it's not practical to basically for somebody in America or somebody in China or anywhere else in the world to send a package of diesel fuel, obviously, but there is plenty of diesel, there's plenty of these flammables that people can use to heat their homes. They're here, but they don't have the money to pay for it. So this would be what the money would be used for. As for the issue about sending money, I wanted to tell Mary, obviously right now, obviously you can't send money directly to Syria, though I've heard that there is a Western Union branch that still functions somewhere in the country. I think in Rif Damesh, but I'm not don't quote me on it. I'm not 100% certain. I just heard from somebody. There are also offices on the border of Turkey and Syria, on Syrian side, where you can send money to an account or to a person through Western Union, for example, in Turkey. And that person, he's a Syrian in Turkey, and he works with this office. They take a percentage of whatever is sent as their business, but at least it's one way to receive money. What we plan on doing, or if there's somebody maybe who's in Turkey who can help us with this, we'd like to open a bank account in Turkey to have money sent, and then there are Syrians from here who can go directly to Turkey to pick up the money, whom we trust, like Abu Muhammad, for example. We can send him to go pick the money up and to return. This is obviously, if there's legal implications to this, we'll have to look into the legal implications and do the best we can. And maybe we'd have to make multiple trips to make it legal. I don't know. We'll have to look.
Well, it's money. It's not weapons.
Yeah, you know this is the problem, though, is that most people they don't see that that this money they'll say can be used to buy the weapons, and this is something that
People don't need weapons.
yeah, people they don't need weapons. There's plenty of weapons here. Maybe not enough for certain groups, but there's plenty enough for the people themselves. You know.
Well, the right weapons aren't there. The right weapons aren't
the right
there,
weapons.
but yeah.
I think that
I hear you.
Not to get off
Plenty of AKs.
A political discussion or a debate, but
Right.
the main weapon people need is just unity. They need to unify against Assad, and that they conquer him, easily. But right now you've got so many divisions, so many different groups, and so on and so forth. It's just too difficult for them to unite to just to take the necessary steps. So So Mary's saying, as of 19th August 2011, no money can be sent to Syria at all. Again, I don't know if it's just like somebody cannot even go, like a Syrian cannot go from Turkey back to Syria with money, or how it works. But I mean, it happens all the time. This is the Turkish borders is open, especially for Syrians, and Syrians have free access to Turkey. It's easy as long as I'm not sure if they even need to have a passport, but they just need to prove that they are a Syrian citizen and they can enter into Turkey.
Right. Well, I know all the material things that are sent, which is not as effective as sending money and then purchasing things in Turkey to come across the border, are mostly coats, blankets, cold weather gear, but then also like polio shots and syringes and different medical supplies. Some of the equipment that the medical clinics don't have, not X-ray machines, but like IV drip machines, and those things are being sent. Wheelchairs.
Somebody who was in a car accident, and he needed to get a CT scan done, or was it MRI scan done, and there's no place here to get an MRI scan. He had to go to Turkey to get this done. So I mean, there's plenty of equipment that's needed here. Right. These types of things, but as far as we're concerned, our main focus is not the things out of our control, so to speak. Like we can. I'm not thinking about how can I furnish a hospital with what they need, because this is a big project, and we are, as you mentioned, a grassroots group. We're just a group of people. We're not even a group. I wouldn't even say we're like an organization. We're just a group of people. Al Mujalla just is the news side of it all, just presenting the news to people, showing them what's going on. We take pictures. Like, for example, I think it was, 2 days ago we were in Haraitan? Yeah. 2 days ago we were in a city close by, and we were driving just on the main highway, and we stopped and we started walking into a store, and we heard a huge explosion, and it shook everything. We looked around, and just about 30 seconds ago, if we were 30 seconds on the highway, and if Osman was not driving as fast as he was, we would probably have been caught in that explosion. And so we were actually the first ones there to even take pictures of the place. We took pictures. I took video, and it's going to be on the website shortly. And I mean, these types of things. It was actually what was attacked, and I explained this in the article I wrote. It was actually a hospital that was that was being attacked. So I mean, it was a store that they turned into a hospital, and this is the 11th time it was struck. The 11th time that this was targeted for a strike. So these are things that we can show people that. I mean, you can say all you want if you don't want to trust us or whatever. Because I mean, you say I don't trust the news media or whatever. This is the whole purpose we're here doing this. But we're not like them because honestly, I got kind of fed up with all the division and all of the different organizations and different groups. And this is what did someone just in the group said? What Marwan was asking about: have we ever worked with associations from Europe or U.S.? In a word, no, because we don't really want to involve ourselves with other organizations that, God knows best, have their own agendas, and also the point is that they are in Europe and the U.S. We are here in Syria. We know what the people need because we can ask them what they need. We can speak to them directly and not just trust maybe some guy's uncle who's living in America and he might or might not just be looking out for his own family. We can be here to try to help people, directly. And if there is a way, there must always be a way to send money, send resources. I spoke with somebody in the Gulf countries, and he wanted to know exactly what they needed, and he was going to send a shipment of things. So this is what I had mentioned, how Abu Muhammad's working on gathering up how many families, how many children, the ages of the children, because when people send clothes, you want obviously the right size of clothes. You want everything to be the what's going to be most effective and most useful for the people. You don't want to send them all one size and it's for grown men. You've got kids here, you've got women who need clothes, and everyone needs food. Everyone needs like we mentioned about heating their homes. They need firewood or they need diesel. For example, 1 ton I think 1 ton of firewood is enough to last طن واحد من الحطب كله شتاء ولا ايش؟ لا
20 تقريبا
أو 20
لا
maybe even 2 months. One ton or a ton and a half of firewood for one family would be enough for about 2 months at least. In the winter we still have a few months left of winter. Maybe 3 or 4 months left of cold winter. So this is or maybe just 2 or 3 months left of cold winter. So these types of things people need, and like a ton of firewood is كم طن حطب?
You said 2 months.
17,000 Syrian liras, which is more than $100, maybe $120 or so, for a ton of firewood that would last about 2 months. So
wow.
I mean, this is what people. I mean, they need. I interviewed somebody, and he was just saying, we're totally ruined. What else can I say? There's nothing else I can say. We just need help. Have mercy on us. That's all they want. They want people to think about the situation, and people can bring it up that there's other problems in the world, and there are other problems in the world, and this is one of those problems. So if you want to help this problem, help this problem. If you don't want to help this problem, help something else. But we're here just to show you what the problem is here, and if there's anyone who wants to support the people of Syria, or at least some people of Syria. Obviously, like I said, we're not even about to make the claim that we're able to help even all of Aleppo, of course, let alone all of Syria. But at least we can start somewhere, and we can start with some of these small towns outside of Aleppo, because that's where we're located right now. And from here all the way probably to Raqqa, we can go to these places in this was the liberated area, and we can see what people need and see if we can help them the best we can. Whether that is in just having people send items, or if we can figure out the best way to get money sent here. Whether it is a Turkish bank account that we wanted to open and we can even open it in the name of a humanitarian organization if that's what's necessary. But as long as we can find out some way to get the aid and the assistance to the people of Syria, that's what we're focused on doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hear all the time that, you know, all the efforts can be taken away in an aerial bombardment, just like that.
Exactly. Actually, I mean, this is today, every day for the past, I don't know how long, probably
10 days now, isn't it? You guys have been barrel bombed?
No, even more than that. We not just the barrel bomb, but even every day other than the day when there was the major snow, there was no bombing. But every other day, throughout the day, you'll hear a plane shooting or a plane bombing or something. You know, not all day long, but some days is more than others. I think yesterday was about probably every 15. Yeah, this is one thing I wanted to mention for a long time, and now I finally have the platform to say it. For anybody who supports Assad, okay, and they don't know why, they think that they're just being lied to by media, or they just listen to Press TV, or they listen to RT, or whoever they're listening to,
or they're just scumbags.
Or no, I mean, some people, I don't know, maybe they just some people might just, they don't know any better. But I'm here right now, and I'll tell you, if after sunset, if you're driving a car, you have to drive with your lights off, because if a plane passes by while there's a light moving, they will shoot at the car. Okay, Abu Muhammad himself was driving one night, and right in front of him, he almost got shot. You know, luckily they're not very good at shooting, you know, but they are really good at causing a lot of panic and fear and accidents and so forth. You know, Abu Muhammad was driving his car. أتكلم عن الطيارة عندما ضربت يعني أمامك عندما كنت في السيارة. Yeah, and he, I mean, you know, thankfully was not injured, but there's no possible way that they could tell the difference between him, and he was driving just a regular car. There's no way they could tell the difference between him, another civilian, or a militant, or anything else. There's no way they could tell the difference, but they just shoot anyways. So, and if he says, "Oh, this could have been somebody else shooting," there's no one else with planes here. You know, and I mean, and even if you want to say that technically, okay, the ISIS, they conquered a couple of airports, so they have planes. They don't use them, and I think it's well known. Everyone knows they don't use these planes. If they did, there'd be a lot more activity in the air, and there's just not that. Everyone knows it's the regime. So that's one.
You know, the regime even stages car bombs. So I mean, you really can't go by what people say. You know, I mean, you gotta follow the evidence. You have to follow the actions of what the regime has been doing for 3 years, well, for 42 years, let's say. Okay, because they've been using fear, torture, and killing people for 40 plus years. So now that everything is on the line, you know, in Iran and Russia and Iraq are in full, they're putting all their cards in, the government will do anything. They'll do anything. I mean, you've seen how they kill al-Budi. They frickin' went up and blew him up and then knifed him. His own cleric. So,
yeah,
you know what? They're willing to do anything. They bombed Rehanli because they knew a lot of aid was coming through there. So there's been at least a dozen staged car bombs. Yeah. So with a government that'll do that and that will lie constantly and spend a shitload of money on propaganda and send people all the way here to the U.S. to lie. I mean, they gave Agnes an award, a peace award in one of our U.S. cities. That's how little they know what the truth is. They don't know that she was charged with possibly helping to kill somebody. They don't know that she said that all FSA are terrorists, that she refuted the chemical attacks. They don't know that here. So, I mean, we're trying as hard as we can to get the word out there, to get the truth out there. You know? And all the political bullshit, it really isn't going to matter. What's going to matter is people like you and people that picked up an AK, and decided that the scumbag regime's going to go one way or the other.
Yeah.
And they get weaker every day, no matter how much weapons Russia's going to send, or these oil deals now that they're trying to strike outside in the Mediterranean with Russia, and how Iraq is going to allow oil now to come through. All that's not going to matter. The will of the people is what's going to matter. If this revolution didn't sell out after 3 years, it isn't going to sell out in 4 or 5. People are going to end up suffering and they're going to die, but that is the price of getting a new government, of getting the choice to decide what's next. All that aside, we got to help you people. We got to help. People need to start caring. You've seen how the UN acted. Now they want to send up to 12,000 troops to the Sudan. Boy, they sure acted quickly, didn't they? Where were they for Syria? Where were they after 10 days of bombing in frickin' Aleppo? Where were they after the Hula massacre? Or the people that they dumped in Kuwairis? When they dropped the waters down and they killed up to 100 people and let them float down the river. And lowered the water level so everybody could find the bodies. What about Banyas? What about the countless massacres? The media is overlooking all that stuff. And they don't realize, one guy dies from a movie, they talk about that, but yet they don't have the time to talk about what Angelina Jolie's doing or Ellie Goulding, or any of these celebrities that are trying to get attention for what's happening. I know UNICEF's doing a lot. They're getting some celebrities to try and get some attention, some light shined on the fact that there's people suffering. I mean, they're talking about 17 million people are going to be outside Syria within the next year. That's half the population. How can Turkey do it? The Jordanian border is pretty much closed. They shackle people down in the hospital beds. The Lebanon's just as dangerous as Syria in some places. There's still car bombs going off in Hezbollah headquarter areas. The Assad government's threatening to strike rebels inside Lebanon. I mean, the cross-border is here now. The suffering is now. Yet they still want to push towards Geneva. It's ridiculous. And the fact that people like us are going to try and help, it's kind of an injustice because this is what Assad wants. He wants us to pay attention on how to keep people alive while he's killing them. That's the truth. He wants everyone to run around trying to save people as he's killing people. And I don't think any of us are going to let that happen.
Yeah.
I pray that one person here is going to allow the silence to keep going on. And we're going to keep fighting for people of Syria. It's Syrians ought to decide what's next. Not anybody else. Certainly not anybody in America. It's people living there right now.
This is actually something that this is something we could probably talk about for a long time.
Sure. Yeah.
Please. The Syrians choosing their own path and so on and so forth, and then people talk about the foreigners who come in here and how they should have no right to dictate anything. And the reality is that, of course, it's going to have to come from the Syrian side because there's obviously more Syrians here than anybody else, and I don't think that will ever change, even if they all are many of them are leaving the country. I don't think that means that you're ever going to see a time when there's more non-Syrians here than Syrians. Regardless, of a couple things I wanted to mention about Mary asked a couple questions. First point about the if there is if the revolution changes from being having an Islamic I can't find exactly which word, but basically from being a so-called Islamic revolution or having an Islamic flavor to it, so to speak. If it changed to being something other than that, I think she was asking me if I would still support it. But I don't want to, I'm not answering it, because I don't want this to be about me. But I just, from the perspective of what's going on, the issue is that it doesn't matter who you speak to in all these many groups here, other than the PKK, the Kurdish PKK, and perhaps some offshoot of what they call the Free Syrian Army, which we can speak about in a minute, and obviously the Assad regime. Everyone else is speaking from an Islamic perspective. Even the Free Syrian Army, most of the different groups in the Free Syrian Army are speaking. Even there can be debates on whether or not they're actually as Islamic, so to speak, as other groups, but they are all speaking from the perspective of being Islamic. When somebody is killed, they talk about his reward that he will get when he goes to paradise for being a shaheed, for being a martyr. The way they look at this as being tied in with their religion. Okay, this is not something that is they're separating, saying, "Oh, well, no, we're fighting for democracy." Even if somebody says this, and just so you know, I have not heard a single person since I've been here say that they're fighting for democracy. Not a single person has ever said that they're fighting for democracy. Not in West Aleppo, anyways, and not in Azaz in the north, and not in Idlib, and not in the west of on the border of Turkey and Syria, on the western border. I haven't heard anybody saying they're fighting for democracy. Now, don't get me wrong. You might hear some people who talk about, yes, they want the people to choose their own future and so forth and so on and so on and so forth. But when it comes to why they're fighting, the obvious answer why they're fighting is because they have a tyrant who they're trying to overthrow. But what their goal is to establish justice. And the people here are Muslims. The majority, the vast majority, are Muslims, and they see their religion is an answer to that. And this is, I'm talking about here in my area. There's two Free Syrian Army groups, and I've spoken with the leaders from both of them, and they are right on board with, they want an Islamic government to take control after the war is over. They want this. They know that this is what many of the people, they talk about reestablishing the Khilafah. People in the Free Syrian Army even speak about this. It's not, a lot of people, even some of the people, for example, in the ISIS, see the Free Syrian Army as being non-Islamic. But in reality, from what I've spoken with them, I see them as being Islamic people, but perhaps just not as educated in Islam as others. Just not as much knowledge. They have not digested as much knowledge as others. But in terms of their hope for Syria, the hope is the same. They want to have a Islamic state, so to speak, not like the Islamic state that that's called the ISIS, but the other question she said. Yeah, this is, Marwan is saying the people don't want an Islamic state led by the ISIS, and like I said, I don't think you'll find too many people who disagree with that. They don't want an Islamic state led by the ISIS.
A small portion.
Okay? A lot of people don't. But at the same time, and I will just say this: there's a big difference also between one part of Syria with the ISIS and another part of Syria with the ISIS. They have different leaders in different places. So some people actually do lean towards them in some areas and lean away from them in other areas. So, but that's beside the point. Even the issue is, it's not about who will lead, it's the flavor of government that we're talking about. The flavor of government is going to be an Islamic flavor. That's I think there's nobody here would actually say otherwise or believe otherwise. Even if somebody wanted otherwise, they know that it's not going to happen because there's too many elements here that want an Islamic state. That's the issue. Even if you, look at the enemy. The enemy, Assad and his people, he's receiving so much support from the Shia of Iran and of even, I've heard, Pakistan, people coming from Pakistan, from India, from different places, from Lebanon, of course. And to them, this is
Korea,
a religious war. This is religious.
Ukraine. Now there's Ukrainians fighting.
Yeah, exactly. They're explaining to their people, to their fighters, that this is a holy war against the Sunnis, and that they must participate to support what they believe the Mahdi is going to come here to, he's going to return here. And so they're actually looking at this from a completely religious perspective. And then, of course, you have the fighters on the other side who are equally looking at it from a religious perspective. So whoever wins, and I mean, we pray and hope that it's going to be the good guys, they're looking at it from a religious standpoint. They're not looking at it from no one is looking at it from a secular standpoint. Not a single person. Not a single person who actually has a say in the matter.
And I think, I mean, not irregardless, but no matter what faith the next government is going to be, I think that everyone's represented and everyone's respected is probably what everybody wants. I mean, we all know that Syria isn't comprised of only Muslims. There's Jews, there's Christians, there's Druzi. There's a diverse, Syria is a mosaic of people. True, Sunni is, the overriding majority of people, but the Alawites have been the one that, have controlled everything. So, we see how a minority has abused the majority. So now there needs to be unity, right? Now everybody's got to be unified first to get Assad out.
Yeah.
That's got to be first. How can we pontificate over what's next when people are dying now? I personally, I don't like ISIS, but they are getting stuff done on the ground, and whether they are partially paid by the Assad government to divide the support on the ground from the forces or not, I don't know. I'm not there on the ground. I'm not there to see if there's warlords. I'm not there to see if there's people getting executed by some of the opposition. I don't know that. But I know that in order to get something done, people need to be unified. People need to consider everybody being included in what's next. But right now, people are dying. So, we could talk about what's next all day long. But if there isn't any Syrians for what's next, then there ain't going to be a what's next.
Yeah. Let me just comment on a couple points. First off, to Marwan, I'm not protecting anyone. I'm trying to be as fair as I can. I mean, I've got my own personal complaints with all the different groups here, but we're not going to get into all those complaints I have right now. I'm just telling you this is what we see, what I see on a daily basis of what the people are talking about and so forth. And someone mentioned they want something more from the locals. I can ask Abu Muhammad, because he's the only local I have here right now, but I can probably bring you somebody if you want to even me to bring somebody from the Free Syrian Army, and he can speak on this as well. We can do that as well.
As long as he's safe.
Obviously not right now.
Yeah, I mean...
It's late right now. But, so, I mean, I can ask Abu Muhammad to tell me what exactly the people have, their demand is in terms of the next government, what they want the next government to be.
الحكومة القادمة يعني بعد سقوط بشار يعني ماذا يريد أهل سوريا أن يكون في هذه الحكومة؟ كيف حكومة إيش؟ أي حكومة يريدون؟
لا نستطيع أن نقول كل الناس على رأي واحد، هذا مستحيل، ولكن الناس تريد السلام، تريد أن تعيش آمنة مطمئنة في ديارها. هذا ما يجمع عليه جميع الفئات.
He's saying that there's no way, it's impossible to say what everybody wants, because not everyone is going to agree upon what they want. But everybody does want peace. They want to live in a peaceful environment. They want the next government to offer them peace and stability. ومن جهة بين العلمانية وبين الإسلامية وبين الاشتراكية وبين كل هذه الأشياء، الناس يعني هل لهم رأي في هذا أو لا يهتمون بهذا أصلا؟
أكيد لهم رأي. الناس هم شرقيون، أخلاقهم شرقية إسلامية، هم كل ميلهم إلى الإسلام، ولكن إلى الإسلام المعتدل الصحيح، وليس الإسلام تكفيري
أو المتشدد. هذا هو الشعب السوري، اعتدال ولا تكفير.
No. He's saying that due to the people wanting being Eastern people, they're an Eastern people and they're an Islamic people. Okay, due to that, the people want an Islamic flavor, as I mentioned. But he said, but not any type of Islam. He said they want an Islam that an understanding of Islam that is fair and balanced and just, not the flavor of Islam that is portrayed so much in the media and so forth. What we call here is a takfiri brand of Islam, which is basically the people who say that my understanding of Islam is correct and everybody else not just is wrong, but is not even Muslim. So all these other people, they don't even consider them as Muslims. And this is what you find with some of the groups that are here. You do find them making this takfir of other people, of even the regular Syrian people. They'll say, oh, they're not even Muslims. How could they be Muslims for X, Y, Z reason? So this is a problem, obviously. But the point that he was saying is that they want a government that respects their Islamic tradition, that respects the Islamic manners and morals that they've been raised upon.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for answering that. I mean, from your opinion, from those around you. It's good to know because, like you said, there's a lot of...
I'm sorry, Jim, I have to cut you off just for a second because I don't want this to be misunderstood. Somebody is saying something that's not true. Marwan.
Oh, his feed cut out. Yaya's feed cut out, so I don't see him. Osman, what is your view of what's going on right now? Could you give me an idea what's... Is your speaker on? Or Mary, if you want to join, because if Yaya is gone, then there's a slot open for you to join if you wanted to try and come in.
He's a Syrian. He haven't given bay'ah to nobody. He have 7 kids. He's married, have a big family. We are making this so you people can see what the truth is. We are not just going to post a video up that somebody have filmed somewhere and then say, well, hey, this is what's happening. No, we go out driving in the different cities, take videos, talk with the different people, and then we put stuff on the internet so you people can see it. So if you believe it or not, that's not our problem. We do our job, let you guys know what's going on here. If you don't believe, we can meet up with you. You can come here and see the same thing, and maybe somebody on the other side can say, well, I don't believe what you are saying. This is true life. I mean, when we feel something, you're going to see us there live. We are not in any groups. We are Muslims, yes. We all want peace for the whole humanity, yes.
Sometimes peace takes fighting, though.
Yes, sometimes to get peace you have to fight. I mean, you have to protect yourself to make a living because somebody wants to steal your money. You're gonna have to fight for that. This is real life.
You can live like a sheep or die like a lion, and hopefully, Assad will be a sheep soon.
He will be a sheep soon. I mean, if you ask every Syrian here, they all want to get hold of him. And there are many different groups, but there's only one enemy. Yes, they have problems between each other, but they are not controlled. I mean, every group has its own leader. Yeah. I mean, that's the only one I wanted to point out. Yes. Yes. We don't want people to think that we are any groups.
Okay. Okay. Isn't the I think there was another question I'm trying to look for. Jim, your video's gone, at least for me. So okay, so the question that somebody said, or somebody was mentioning how, I think Mary, you were mentioning that this revolution was not about Islam and so forth. Like I was mentioning, whether or not it started this way or otherwise, it's what the people are viewing it right now. They're viewing it as an Islamic battle, so to speak. Regardless, myself and Al Mujalla and the website, we only want to present what's actually happening. What we see. If we find anybody who's saying they don't want Islam, trust me, I'm going to interview that person, and you're going to see that interview on the website. There's no doubt. In anybody I see who wants anything, one of the questions I ask whenever I interview somebody is, what do you want the people of the world to know? What do you want to tell the people of the world? Not just it's not just me asking questions and getting the answer, and you get your traditional interview. I just want to know what the person wants to tell the rest of the world. What do the people of Syria want? What do the people of Syria need? And sometimes when I've noticed when you speak to people, like as I was just speaking to Abu Muhammad, when I speak to some people, they don't mention Islam right away because it's ingrained in them that they live by Islam. It's not something that they need to be. They're expecting to give the answer. Oh, we want an Islamic state. They'll say, no, we want to live in dignity. We want to live in honor. We want to live in this. We want to live in that, and so on and so forth. But then when you say, okay, so you don't actually want to live in an Islamic state, they say, no, of course we do. That's how we're going to receive our dignity. That's how we're going to receive our honor. They understand this. They understand that they are a Muslim people. And of course, I'm speaking about the majority. So don't ask me about, okay, well, what about the Christians and the Alawis and so on and so forth? There's no possible way. And I had this debate with someone a long time ago. There's no possible way to have anything where everyone is happy. It's impossible. There's going to always be. If you say democracy is the way, then you cannot lie to me. I lived in America. I grew up in America. I know that democracy does not produce happy people. Okay, it produces some happy people, and the other people are not so happy. At least for 4 years, I know. Or now going on now, people for 8 years, anti-Allah happy. That's what it works. And the way government works, even in that the people. Never make 100% of the people happy, but especially in a place like Syria, and especially in the places like where the majority of the population are Muslims, it's not just a sensible request for the people. They want to live according to the way that they would live if they had their say, and their say is an Islamic. We say Islamic, but for like as Turab, the Islamic perspective. To have their perspective that of government is one based on Islam. And this is again, a lot of this just goes back to terminology and technical terms, and we could debate the semantics of what everyone's saying, whether they say democracy or freedom or whatever. But anybody who equates democracy with freedom doesn't know what democracy is. Democracy is just saying you're giving the authority to dictate how much freedom you have. You get the authority to tell to vote on who gets to tell you how to live. That's all that democracy is. It's not that you have freedom. You just have the freedom to choose who's going to enslave you, so to speak. And that's it. And under an Islamic state is going to go as that's a lie. It's a lie. And the real history of the world knows that that's a lie. And I haven't heard of anybody going to any Christian areas here and just massacring the people. We don't hear about that here. If you go to Sudan, South Sudan, you might hear about that. But the opposite. They'll go to the Muslim areas and massacre the people. So don't. This is not even I think the right platform to be discussing this, because it's not really relevant. But if we are going to discuss it, I'll just say that the people here from whom we've heard, we're in an area that is predominantly Muslim. I think probably, from what I know, I can't protect it, but everyone's not a Muslim here, other than I've heard that there are some people in a village nearby that aren't Muslims, but they're living happily and peacefully. So let me read what's being said. What do the LCCs? What does that stand for? Mary, you said about the LCCs. Who's the LCCs? Local Coordination Committee. Well, I'll tell you right now, organization and coordination is not something that exists here. So I don't know who they are, and that's all I can say. I'm looking at it from the perspective from where I am. There might be some groups who try to do some work, some coordination efforts, and that's great. But I'm just telling you that from the perspective, from where we're sitting, from what we're looking at, the people don't need somebody right now just to tell them how to do things. They need help. They need assistance. Local coordination committees.
What?
I don't know. This is what they probably hear in the news.
This is
probably
it's bullshit. Sorry, my language.
And Marwan, you can keep saying that we're ISIS, but I can assure you we're not, because
what's ISIS?
Islamic State in Iraq and Sham.
Oh. Tell him we're Muslim.
Yeah. Just if you hear us speaking from an Islamic perspective, that's because we're Muslims. And if you want to call that Islamism, I know Mary, you said this, but it doesn't matter what you want to call it. It's just we're Muslims, so obviously when we pick up the Quran and we read the Quran and we see that our religion tells us to believe certain things and to say certain things and to practice certain things, and if that makes us Islamist, then I'm an Islamist. But this is but all that really is just me saying I'm a Muslim and I want to follow Islam.
Can I speak?
I think you can speak from there on my microphone. My microphone. It's right here.
Marwan.
Yeah.
you guys need to understand that either we do this and you are freely not to log in. I mean, nobody forced you to come and listen to this or to be a part of this. Don't think anything about us that you don't know, because you don't know us. I mean, I've been living 21 years in Denmark, cooking for the parliament. I'm a Muslim, yes, I'm born Muslim. I mean, so what can I tell him, man? We don't have time for things like this, man. We want to make something different. We want to change the world, man. We want to change the condition of people here. Not discuss about if I'm a terrorist or not. You might be a terrorist. I don't know you. I mean, we want to help the people, not discuss about which Islamic group are bombing here or who's killed.
Yeah.
I mean, where is this guy from?
He's living in France, but he's from Syria.
He's from Syria.
Yeah.
Why don't you come and fight for your people?
Why don't you come and fight for your land and your people?
People like us come all the way to take your place, and you sitting here lying about people like us. This side is not made for
See, the thing is, Marwan said that this is people are already working for this. People are already working in humanitarian aid. If this is the case, then why is it that when I go to refugee camps, people are telling me that we're not getting enough, we're not getting enough, we're not getting enough. And when people come, they're not actually, we're not getting all of the aid that they've been promised. They promised us. You know, that the aid is being taken by other groups. Yeah, Marwan says he prefers studying and letting his cousins fight.
Yeah.
Then you should also let them speak. You know,
give us the connection to his cousins,
yeah,
and bring them live here.
If you want, we can contact your cousins and bring them here, and they can speak with us. And they can speak on Vonvo.
And then we see if we are terrorists.
Yeah, we can speak to them and see maybe see what they want. And I wanted to just make a quick statement. He didn't ask me to do this, but I just wanted to say that this platform at Vonvo is definitely something that is useful. You know, not just for us, obviously, but for anybody who wants to have these discussions, because we get the opportunity to have at least 4 speakers speak at a time, and have this chat. But hopefully, we'll get it all fixed up. But it's very useful. For getting the message out about whatever it is one's cause is. Yusuf, you have to scroll down to see the messages, and sometimes the messages get caught up in the bottom, or sometimes not directly at the bottom, like above Turam's statements. I don't know why. So, Jim.
Hey, sorry about that. I had some battery issues, and I had to reboot everything. And I was just allowing everyone to say their last words there. Yeah. I think everyone kind of got involved in maybe the religious background of some of the fighters and so forth. So I was just kind of listening in.
We have to cut that guy off because we don't. So,
okay. There, I've got my battery recharging. Okay. So, any other questions? Let me see. How's going into Deir ez-Zor? As far as I know, you can get into Deir ez-Zor, yeah? Deir ez-Zor. Yeah, but you can get there? Is it blocked off? No, أعرف بس في الطريق مسكر ولا؟ Yeah. From others who've been in that area said that it's dangerous to go there right now. It's difficult to get in because they're having lots of fighting going on there.
Every time somebody posts a comment, my feed goes all the way back to the top of the chat.
Mine also.
Yeah,
so it's kind of hard. I'm having to scroll down.
It's a bug. They'll get it fixed.
But thank you guys for coming and giving us a first person of what's going on there from your perspective.
Okay. We hopefully will have many more discussions about this and other topics.
No, absolutely. We got to stay posted and active.
Yeah. So,
besides you gentlemen, most of us are in safe areas well outside of Syria, so we're really counting.
Yeah, other than the occasional bombing and gunshots and so forth, it's pretty safe here too.
Oh, is that all? I could say the same of Chicago, but yeah, it's nothing like Syria.
It's just bombs.
Yeah.
Bullets.
No, and I had to laugh because in Illinois, 2 of the cities within Illinois were considered, one of the top 3 violent cities in America. But really, it's just small potatoes when when you look globally and you see what's going on in Burma, and you see what's going on in Syria and in a few other places. It's nothing. But just like anything, when it's not outside your door, you don't concern yourself with it. And I think that's kind of the problem with a lot of people around the world. They don't, if it's not outside their door, they don't really care. And we have to bring what's really happening right in front of them. If they were to see, how the Assad government's lying about what happened in Adra by using old photos of a Hula massacre and saying that it was the rebels that killed people. Well, they don't know. They don't know the truth. They don't see how the propaganda can make you turn away and not know what's really happening. So, I mean, it's through citizen activists that film what's really happened the moment it's happened, and then they post it on YouTube. And then, activists and people around the world have just long enough before those videos are kicked off, reported and removed, before we're able to save those, share them, and get them to different media sources so that they can see what's going on. The world knows that for 10 days consecutively that barrel bombs dropped over Aleppo. Now, what the fuck is the world going to do about it, though? That's the question. Are we going to help these people, or are we going to continue to ignore the situation and frame the whole thing as a civil war, which it's not?
It's not.
There's genocide taking place. I'm pretty sure the Free Syrian Army doesn't have, brand new MiGs and Scud missiles.
Right.
They don't have all the supplies being given to them from the UN. They don't have the Russian government. They don't have the Iraqi government. They don't have all these governments giving them stuff freely across the borders. For the longest time, Free Syrian Army and other opposition groups haven't gotten what they've asked for. And now the U.S. government has officially cut off non-lethal aid, which it wasn't really there anyways. There wasn't much aid to begin with. And when the Syrian military command storage facilities were raided and items taken out of there, that allowed the U.S. government then to say, well, we're cutting off aid now. So who did that serve? Well, that served the political governments that are at hand. So now nobody has to do anything because, well, some rebels came and they stole some of the expired MREs and damaged flak jackets and different communication equipment that probably would do more harm than good. So really the governments that are supposedly helping the opposition aren't. They're monitoring things. They're giving money and aid to the government that's killing the people in Syria. That's the truth. You know? And there's hundreds of people that have told me they haven't received one bullet or one weapon from any Western government, and certainly not from the UK. So there's a lot of people saying things, but when you look at the actions and the execution of what aid is actually there for people, it's not much.
Yeah.
It's people who have family there that are doing stuff.
To ask the question that, who was it, Mortimer asked, I'll ask Abu Muhammad, ما رأيك في عملية السلام من جهة الأمم المتحدة؟
كذب ونفاق. هذا ضحك على الناس، ضحك على الجماهير.
He's saying that the process from the UN, the peace process, is a lie and hypocrisy, and it's just it's like a joke and laughing at the people. You know, that they don't see it as being anything serious at all.
Yeah, I'm no political analyst, and I'm certainly not a military analyst, but from what I see, I would have to completely agree. It's really just a slap in the face and shameful. You know, these friends of Syria are no friends. You know, they're watching people get buried in mass graves while they drink their coffee from 5-star accommodations. So, you know, in my heart of hearts, sorry to say it, but fuck them. They're working for who? They're not working for people. Seems like they're working for themselves. But, you know, who am I? I'm just some Joe Schmo in Chicago, Illinois. So, I see people suffering, and I don't see people taking their suits off and cashing them in for aid money to send to Syria. I see them, you know, buying themselves villas and buying themselves brand new cars, and their lives go on while people die. You know?
Yeah.
The people I believe in, the heroes I believe in, are the people they're actually doing something. They're not talking, unless maybe they're asking for a handout or they're asking for a donation. But other than that, they're getting stuff, they're putting it in containers, and they're sending it to Syria. To me, that's real action. I mean, the talking's important because we got to get the word out to the world, but in the end, a pile of words isn't going to save one Syrian. It's what we do. We got to do something. We got to keep doing it. We can't get tired. We can't lose our determination. You know, every day I wake up, it's one more breath that I can do some kind of good. So we just got to keep doing it. We can't give up. You're not giving up.
Just like make a comment. So, if I can make a comment about the you know, people are saying that, you know, there needs to be a Syrian delegation for peace process and for the peace process and so forth. The problem when we're talking about these peace processes and everything is that all of them obviously happen outside of Syria. So while it's going on outside of Syria, you have people inside Syria who are actively fighting and killing and being killed. And honestly, they don't care what people are talking about outside of Syria. They're busy with a war.
Yeah.
You know, so like for example, the Syrian National Council or Coalition or whatever they are, they have no. The people here have no contact with them. They don't. If they do, it's a couple of amirs, a couple of leaders of this group or that group who speak to them, and they do not have a say in what happens with all these other groups. So, if you have no unity here, how could any group outside of Syria say that they have any right to speak for all of the people here? And they don't, and that's why a outside peace process, at least right now, is impractical. It doesn't work. And even again, Mortimer, you're saying, what about Syrian civil society representatives? What about the Syrians who are risking their lives? They don't care about those civil society representatives who go off. I mean, most of the people here, I know Abu Muhammad, for example, has brothers living in Turkey, has a family in Turkey. Most of the Syrians here have family in Turkey and in Lebanon and in other countries, in Jordan and then others who've gone further away. They have families in other places, and there's pretty much consensus that they're not expecting that their families in other places are going to be able to do much for them outside of Syria. But the people who are in Syria, they're highly respected. The ones who actually go forth and fight, in this cause. They're defending the people. Really, they're not just sitting in some office talking about things that the people in Syria don't actually know what they're talking about. So this idea that they can have some peace process in some far off country, and even if it's in Turkey, even if it's in Istanbul, with a group of people who do not have contact, real contact, not just with the Syrian people, but with all of the different groups that are here. What happens when they all agree in Istanbul for some form of government, and then they come here and the groups say no. Who are they to tell the groups who are actually actively fighting, killing, and being killed? Who are they to tell these groups that they actually get to say what goes in Syria? This is just basic. This is just simple. I don't want to say logic, but it's reality. This is
right.
You cannot tell somebody, okay, I've been designated by whom? By the UN. Who's the UN? The UN means nothing here. They're a joke here. They're not somebody. There's not a serious organization. Because I know a lot of people don't really want much military intervention from outside, but some people do. And when you have someone like Assad who's gassing his people, using chemical weapons and so forth, and doing like what I said, when you drive a car at night, you're probably going to get bombed if you keep your lights on. These types of things, and yet there's no actual response from outside. If there's no response from outside now, and there hasn't been from so long, then I think people would even see any type of response coming from outside now as being some type of political move. And no one wants that. They want help. They want real help, whether it's help in the form of someone sending them food and clothing, or if it's help in coming and fighting and making an end to this oppression. Fighting against the oppressor. And this is something that I think in every other group or every other country in the world, not every other country, but countries in Europe and in America, for example, they understand this. Who does not understand that if you're being oppressed, fight against the oppression? If there's a tyrant, fight against the tyrant. This is the whole basis of the American Revolution, the French Revolution, and so on and so forth. So there is a need sometimes for violence. People always want to we must go through a peace process. That only works if everyone is united. Everyone here is united. All of the rebels, so to speak, are united, and then they all unite upon a specific group of delegates to go and speak about this matter. But since they're not united, it's impossible to have that peace talk. So all that remains is the fight. The fight must continue, and that's it.
Right, and I think a lot of success and achievements have happened since unity grew. No matter what umbrella it falls under, if unity and cooperation happen, then a lot of success can happen from that. I forget how many groups were under the Islamic Army now within Syria, but it's like 13 or 14 different groups that came together. I think it was maybe 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah,
where there was a big push for unity.
The Islamic Front, basically.
And that's necessary for anything to happen. And now look at Assad government is obviously very desperate with their barrel bombing campaign. This is how they lead up to Geneva too. They try and crush the spirit of people that have been pretty successful up in Aleppo.
Yeah.
There's a lot of groups in the north that have been maybe not as moderate, but success on the ground against Assad is still a success. You know, if the regime can be ejected, then what next can happen? If the regime can be ejected, rebuilding can start. You know, leaders can come forth in the different cities, in the different provinces, you know, and set down, police forces, and you know, rebuild the hospitals and rebuild the infrastructure and the electricity and so forth that's needed there. But right now, everybody's under siege. You know, and if they're not being starved, they don't have electricity, they don't have heat, they don't have fuel, they don't have gas, they don't have food. What can they do without all those things? Nothing. They got to scrounge for food. They got to cut down olive trees. They got to burn their furniture just to survive. You know, just surviving when you have nothing takes a lot of your effort and a lot of your focus away when you're trying to, you know, liberate an area, when you're trying to get checkpoints, you know, destroyed so that you can move around the country. You know, the Assad government's got more Hezbollah and Iranians now in his forces because he has to. He's lost so many forces over this time. You know, how long is Iran and Russia going to be all in? You know, we don't know that. But we know that anybody that's trying to help Syrians to be free and decide what's next, we can't stop, and we got to keep going too. We can't worry about what they're doing. We have to, you know, unify, and we have to give you people what you need. You know, and that's what we're here for today. We're here to help. We're not here to dissect, you know, what's next, or even the political minutia of what's going on, because a lot of that's out of our control. As human beings, we got to act to give you guys what you need: the food, the fuel, you know, and the acknowledgement of what the damn truth is. You're not fighting a civil war. This is an uprising for freedom. You know, and people that have been involved know that. But we need to let the world know that they need to care about what's going on, just as if it's outside their front door. You know, the world's turned their back on Syrians for 3 years now. I mean, how many people are we turning away from the West by our indifference? How many extremists are we creating if we don't give a shit and we do nothing? You know? We can't just write off a whole nation because of our own ignorance and indifference. You know, if just because, you know, I don't know what such and such is doing in this group or that group, if he's fighting a government that's killing innocent people, more power to him.
That's good.
More power to him. Okay? I can't be there to defend people that are innocent. I can't be there to lift my AK or my AR-15 or my shotgun. I can't do that. I gotta use a fucking keyboard. But I'm gonna do what I can do to help. Now, the task at hand is, how do we get more help? How do we get people to understand that it's people in Syria that's gonna choose what's next? We have to help them. Okay? So, I mean, thank you guys for being here. But we don't need to analyze, pick apart everything. What we need is help right now. You guys need help right now.
Yeah, we appreciate that, Jim. And this is I'm glad
Sorry
you mentioned that, because we need it's okay. We need to get our focus on what we can do and not just the problem. I mean, there's a time, and it is important, I believe, to understand the problem before you can actually come up with the right solution. But at the same time, we need to also focus on you know, the obvious answer. We need help. We need to help these people. We need to give them these items we spoke about before, and so forth. And all the criticism, I hear so many people criticizing the efforts of individuals who have taken up arms. It should be known, the issue about the you know, the different groups and so forth. Some of the people who join these groups only do so because that's the only way they can get a weapon to fight against the regime. You know, that's for some people, especially the people who don't have the money to pay for a rifle. You know, a rifle here, like an AK-47, you know, goes anywhere depending on the quality and the make and which country it's made in and so forth. goes anywhere from $1,200 to $2,000, sometimes more, especially if it's in a really good condition. This is money that $2,000 a Syrian will not make in 1 year.
Right.
So this is just money he'd use just to live off of. So if he wants to go and fight against the regime, he'll have to join one of these groups, whether it's the Free Syrian Army or whether it's the ISIS, whether it's Jabhat al-Nusra, whoever it is, he has to join up with a group, whether or not he agrees with their ideology, first and foremost. Secondly, ideology is obviously something that we can speak about for a very long time, but even this idea that the ISIS is a foreign organization that came here and so forth. There are so many Syrians in this group. There are so many Syrians in Jabhat al-Nusra. There are so many Syrians in all these different groups. There are also non-Syrians in the other groups, whether it's in the Free Syrian Army, not so many, but like in Ahrar al-Sham, for example, there's non-Syrians. So it's just whether it's by opportunity, whether it means that there might be a town that is under the control of one of these groups. So obviously there's nowhere to join up except with that one group, or whether there's only 3 groups to choose from. So you're going to go with the one that you think you're going to benefit the most from, in terms of weaponry and so forth. Or maybe somebody might just happen to agree with the ideology of a group. Should we say, oh, well, it's very wrong for him to fight against the Assad regime because he agrees with the ideology of a people who some government, halfway around the world calls a terrorist organization? I mean, this is from what we see. Somebody can say anything they want about Al Qaeda and all these other labels that people give these different groups and so forth, but none of the people here in Syria, the Syrian people, and I don't think probably any of the people who came from outside of Syria had anything to do with 9/11. So before anybody wants to make some connection between that and this, there is no connection to be made. It's just a tactic. I think everybody should know by now, a tactic that the American government and also some governments in Europe use just to, put people on sides. And you see people like in the chat right now who've fallen victim of this way of thinking. Right now, there's a dictator, and there's many groups who are fighting against this dictator. And whether that one of those groups or 2 of those groups or 3 of those groups is on some list in some office somewhere doesn't really make a difference to the people here on the ground. They could care less about what that list says. They want to fight and kill and take control over this dictator. So that's all there is to it. And about what happened in Iraq, what happened in Libya, and that violence doesn't solve the problems. That's because the war is still going on in Iraq and in Libya. The war is not finished yet. Whether or not and even if one was to say, okay, it did finish, it only finished because somebody made the claim that, okay, there's now a stable government in Iraq. No, there's not. There's not a stable government in Libya. There's not a stable government in Iraq. The war continues. Okay, and that the same applies here. It will continue until not just Bashar falls. That's a big step forward. But then after that, there needs to be unity. And it would be great if we could get unity before that happens. But until then, people are suffering here. People need help. People need assistance. People need money. People need clothing. People need food. People need people to care about them. People need people to have mercy on them. And then when somebody goes and education, you go buy a Big Mac. I don't know how much a Big Mac costs. It's been a while, but like $3 or so forth. $3 is what? 450 Syrian liras. That's enough for to feed a family. 10 kilos of bread. I mean, this is a lot that people are spending in other parts of the world on small things that can go a long way here. I mean, if somebody
absolutely
was able to,
it kills me. Kills me when people ask me for money. I can't send them money. You know what I mean? There's no way for me to physically send money to somebody in Syria. What I can do is give it to a grassroots organization that's proven themselves. That they've proven what they've done with pictures. They're in legal. They're legally doing what they're doing, and they're doing a very good job of it. Whether it be Karam or Watan or Zagat, or Sam's, or Hand in Hand, or some of the even smaller, just people like you and me that started up a Kickstarter or something. If I can get the money to them, and I know it's going to get to Turkey physically, and then get into the hands of Syrians, that's how I can donate. But there's people all the time that ask me in Jordan, my father he's got a leg thing, he needs a leg surgery, he needs $3,000. All I can do is ask around for people that I know that are supporters in that country, if they can help them out, if they can give them some zakat, give them some money, if they can help them, if they can maybe talk to a doctor, or there's people I've helped from Egypt to get to Turkey, to get into Syria, to fight. This is what that person wanted. So I found people that could maybe help them, fixers, people that would, this is what the person wanted. It's not what I wanted. I can't physically go and leave my children. I have no family in Syria, but that person wanted to do that. So I helped them to get there. Now he's injured and he's in Turkey. He's healing. But, there's people all around the world that want to do something. I'm only there to try and connect people and trying to help it happen. I'm not a successful person. I don't have a bunch of money. But I donate my cameras, for citizen activists. There's 1,000 things we can do, but we all need to take that one step to do it. And leave the labels for food. Okay? You can't label people. Yeah. People are a little bit more, John, do I agree with ISIS? Maybe not. But they're fighting Assad, so for the meantime, they're doing something that's good. They're killing the government forces, they're killing these Iranians, these Hezbollah, that are infidels. They're interventionist forces that shouldn't even be there in Syria. Okay? People asked for freedom, they got bullets. People kept protesting, they got mortars. The government started saying, look, you need to stop. They started mobilizing tanks to kill people. So, the truth is there. You can't, this isn't Hollywood. The YouTube videos that people are paid to go and report and remove from the internet are there. And a lot of them are saved. They'll never be removed from the truth. The truth is genocide's happening right now. And over a dozen times, ethnic cleansing has happened in Syria. You can't tell me that a 3-year-old is a terrorist. You can't tell me that an infant inside of a woman's body, shot out of it, was a terrorist. You can't tell me that an 80-year-old man that was shot off his motorcycle was a terrorist because he wanted to get fuel for his family. The story of people, the stories that have come out of Syria, they're going to be listened to and heard for decades. But we all need to work towards, rebuilding this country, but first getting this regime out. The only dialogue they know is murder. They don't know reconciliation. They don't know dialogue. They don't know diplomacy. So I don't understand how you can peacefully, diplomatically, get a regime that's been killing its people, 150,000 now, probably way more than that, up to date. How are you going to get them to the table? And even more importantly, how are you going to get representatives that are fighting for their life to go to that table and give it any legitimacy? You can't. People are like you and trying to help others that are fighting for their lives. They're not worried about what's going on politically. They know all they have is Allah. Okay? They've asked the world over and over again, the Arab nations, the Western nations, to do something. They've done nothing. Not one goddamn thing that's actually helped. In fact, they prolonged this whole thing. They made the suffering increase by ignoring it, by giving it diplomatic band-aids. None of that stuff's going to stop this from happening.
And one
sorry
thing
to
I
go
wanted
off.
No, we're glad you're speaking good words. One thing I wanted to say is, somebody above asked. I think he's not here anymore, but he's in Turkey. He said, if there's anything you can do to help, the way that people can help, and we're trying to set this up now. It might not even be in Turkey. It might be somewhere else. But if anybody can help us with just setting up a means of receiving funds, whether that means that the funds will actually go to someone in Turkey, for example, and we have connections with people in Turkey that they can bring money to us, but from a Syrian who can go pick it up, because I think that they must be allowed to at least take their own money back into their country. But we need to investigate this and figure out the best way to do this. But until that happens, at least we can try to get the people aid and assistance that they need in terms of the food and clothing and so on and so forth. So if I just ask everyone to if when you're on Facebook, to just go to Al Mujalla, the page, and to like it, and to just keep up to date with what was posted on there. I'm going to start mentioning through the Facebook page and obviously through the website, which will be online shortly. That I will start mentioning the things people need, and even if individuals can start trying to gather these things and or getting in touch with maybe outside organizations that they can then get these things to send to a specific place, and then we will have them picked up, whether it's somewhere in Turkey and so forth.
How do you spell the website? Al Mujalla, how do you spell it?
It's right there above on the top left under the word Vonvo.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Oh, I got you. Okay, yeah, I'll check that out, because I know that there's a local New Jersey neighbor. He was a mayor of New Jersey. I know he goes into Aleppo quite often to bring in aid through an organization called Watan.
Watan, yeah.
And so, I mean, maybe that there could be some, cooperation between both of you guys, if there is in fact something that they can, get to you to help you guys.
Yes, and this is we'll figure out how to actually do all this. It's just right now it's just getting people aware that we're here. Yeah. That if anybody has any questions for us, obviously it's not just on Vonvo that you can speak with us. Though we do plan on having more Vonvo discussions. But we have the Facebook page, and we're going to have the website up soon. And obviously you know my name, so you can always befriend me or send me messages, and that's not a problem. If you have any questions about what's going on in Syria, or any questions about how to help, how to send aid, and so forth. I mean, sometimes maybe we can even set up something like probably not PayPal, but something similar to that. If you just want to send $5, I mean, this is something that we can put this to use. I mean, there's people who need help, and anything can be useful.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, there's no amount that's too small, like you were saying. A little goes a long way there.
Okay, Oslan is going to answer Jimmy's question about how to solve how to get a peace without fighting. Speak up so they can hear.
I mean, we can start with giving people food.
Look at there, though.
Yeah, but I don't know if... Yeah. Can you hear me if I speak from here?
Yes.
Okay. We can start giving people food and something to drink and a home, because some people do not have a home. And then after every citizen is okay, every Syrian is like having a good life, not a good life with all the luxury, but just the normal thing in life, basic thing. Maybe from there we can start like telling people, well, everybody's a good hand. Let's not fight against each other, because there's also a problem that we have here. That the groups sometimes are fighting against each other. But we can't stop fighting, because we need people need this kind of thing. If we don't fight in us as the people, because when I say us, it's also myself. I'm also considering myself as a Syrian. I meet kids on the street. We don't want people that one more work with the day. So we to the local people, giving them education. There's many factories here just damaged but can be fixed, and then the people can start working. This is also some of the projects that we want to do later on. But all this requires that we get help from people outside, because all the money that I brought, yeah, and all the money that we get sent here, this money using it on the people. I haven't bought any AKs because I didn't have the money for it. So I cook. I'm a chef. I didn't even bring my knife here because maybe they would stop me at the airport trying to get a terrorist, you know. But I came to Syria to help the people. No, it's true.
No, I know. We don't even have little Swiss Army knives. We can't even bring box cutters on planes.
Yeah, no, it's true. Just to be able to come here, you know. But yeah, I have to look.
I think the UK is even worse than the US when it comes to airport security. I said I think the UK is even worse with the airport security.
Probably.
Yeah.
But we need to take care of the people, because if we take care of the people, then we can start like making this normal life here, because life is not normal. People are used to having bread every day. People are used to drinking water. People are used to having light every day. But now all that is like gone. They can't go out after 4 o'clock, so it's limited how many hours you have to get some food. When there's a lot of bombing, all the shops are closed. So if you don't have money to like buy things, then when the shops are closed, you don't get nothing to eat today. It's sad, man, because it's like, but don't forget people, man, people like you guys, all are responsible, because sometimes even in Europe you don't have, but people come and help you. Do the same for these people here. I mean, like, be for a family for a month. Think about that.
No, it's true, and I hear from people in Syria that dying of natural causes is a rare thing. So that in and of itself is a statement. People are used to being exploded, detained, tortured, disappeared, more than they are dying a normal, natural death. So I think that just goes to show you how serious the situation is. People don't eat cardboard when they don't have to. Yeah. So people are starving to death right now. People are freezing to death right now. And I'm sure there's a couple children that have frozen to death, just since early morning. When you're out in the elements like that, you don't have anything to keep you warm, that's what happens. I mean, in Lebanon, they burned down some refugee tents. They kicked a bunch of people out of the refugee tents, made them run away because they were, mad that there's Syrians in their country. I mean, that's sad. People are displaced 4 or 5 times. They finally make it into another country, and then they get their tents burned down. I mean, it's just, it goes on, and so do we. We have to keep going on and on.
Domingo was asking about if there's a place in Jordan to send aid, and then the aid can come into Syria.
Why did you need to pay for it and then make somebody get the money to Turkey?
It's got to be reputable, because I know the Jordanian government, they take half right off the top. So you got to work through a grassroots organization, I would think, if you want all of your money or aid or whatever to get to people.
But I don't know. Actually, I'm not in touch with anyone in Jordan, actually, so I don't know to answer Dominguez's question. But mainly because I'm in the northwest of Syria, not in the south. So, and I don't know what the situation is like down there. I think you probably know more about that, right?
To get send out email, then we'll send out mail.
Yeah, actually, Dominga, anyone who actually is able to help from the Jordanian side, just send us a message on either the Al Mujalla page, or you can send it privately to me. And I am being told that we do actually have maybe someone in Jordan can help with that regard. So we will see about doing that. If you want to contact me privately, that.
Yeah, I have no contacts in Jordan. I don't know anybody there. Have you guys known of anybody being able to successfully leave Syria? You know, for a safer citizenship anywhere else? 'Cause I know that's another problem.
To leave Syria, I mean, it's not a difficult thing to do. The issue is
need
obviously
suitcases of money, right?
Basically, and I mean, the issue is obviously going to be when, like, for example, if you're talking about like a Syrian person who wants to go to another country to be a refugee, is I think countries are not accepting as many refugees as they used to, but also in terms of just going and leaving. I mean, this is not even during the revolution or during this time. Even before, it was difficult for, even now, even for whether it's someone from even Morocco or from any different countries, it's difficult for them just to get up and move somewhere else, just like that, depending on where it is you're talking about them going. But it's possible, obviously, for people, especially if they have some form of money, that they can go and maybe move somewhere to, like in Turkey, for example. If they've got the money, they can go and get themselves established in Turkey and live and work there. And that's what a lot of people have done, and they continue to do. I think actually somebody I know maybe about a month ago or so left to go to Turkey, but I think his plan was to come back after the winter because it's so cold here. But this is something people can do. People who have money and people who are able to do that. Obviously, most of the people in this country don't have that kind of money, and a lot of them are just waiting for the next aid that's going to come from outside. And sometimes, I mean, it's every month.
I just wanted to touch base.
A package.
You know,
I'm sorry.
Just touch base on if anybody that near you was able to successfully get out, because I know from what I've seen and from other people that are here viewing, the experience is that it's extremely difficult. And not only that, it seems like the Assad government is kind of predating on the fact that it's very difficult. And even those that...
I said, if you're talking about just getting out of the country, going across the border into Turkey, it's actually relatively simple.
It is.
For $50, you can get smuggled, or even... I mean, in a Syrian, actually... A Syrian citizen, you can even look on Turkey, the Turkish embassy's website. A Syrian citizen can actually cross over. As I think there's some conditions he must reach, but it's not very difficult. Especially if he has some family member in Turkey already, it's relatively easy for him to cross over and cross back. And I know there's a crossing in north of Azaz, north, and Altima in the west. This is some places that people cross, back and forth. So, but now if you're talking about like someone in Damascus, obviously Damascus is what we're dealing with here, because in Damascus it's completely surrounded by both Bashar and rebels. I mean, you've got there's an active war going on outside of Damascus, day in and day out, and what's called a blockade all around. So it's really difficult for them to get out. Now, if you're talking about like in the liberated areas, which are like close to the borders, it's relatively easy to move around.
Yeah, I just wondered if you had heard any, because using Facebook, using a social media network, if anybody near you was able to get out and actually hit pay dirt, because I've heard nothing but bad things. I mean, not only that Sweden, who used to accept people, isn't doing what they promised to do by these people that actually can afford and can actually make the travel up there. Because once you leave Syria, if you don't have a visa, if you don't have your papers, they won't accept you in another country. You know, so people are leaving Syria. They're going to either Libya or Egypt, and then taking ships across the Mediterranean to try and get to Greece, who will arrest them. And just recently, they caught a ship before it hit shore with 100 Syrians and other Afghanis that had left to try and make it to safety. So, and in Italy, they just put them in kind of like refugee camps there. They don't allow them to go up into Europe towards Germany or Sweden, who could accept them. So literally, you need a ton of money. You need the logistics and people to be able to accept you there. As far as in the U.S., it seems like the only people that are able to make it here are under student visa. Again, you need thousands of dollars to be able to go to university here. So people not only, they can't make it here, but then they can't afford it. And even if they leave, like in Egypt, they get imprisoned or tortured or kicked back into Syria. So, I mean, it really is a terrible situation, but I just wanted to touch on it briefly. For those who maybe not as, they're not as knowledgeable, and they say, well, why don't the people just leave? Well, there's nowhere to go, first of all. And secondly, all the neighboring countries are overburdened. They literally can't accept many more people, even if these people are going to die. They constantly close down the borders a lot of times. And stop fighting is completely unfounded. You either survive or you die. There is no real choice. You either starve or you eat trees. I mean, there's not a lot of choices for people that are in this desperate of a situation. So I just want that to be out there, and to whoever's listening, it's not as easy as leaving. It takes a ton of money. It takes tons of money, and it takes people to be able to receive you, and then be able to get you the paperwork so that you can stay there and not get sent back to Syria. So it's not a very easy situation for anybody that's over there. Go upstairs. Yeah. Are you still there? Yeah.
Yeah. I think Mary made a good point just now. She said that getting people, just getting people to go to Jordan or to Turkey and so forth is not a solution, anyways. And
right.
It's true. It's true, and obviously, I think actually, I mean, I can even speak about this. I think you know this as well. Like in America, some people have gone from, for example, Mexico, and go into America looking for work, and then they can't find work, and they have to leave and go back. And
right.
to even the same, actually, I had friends from Nigeria who had moved to America, thinking that they're going to receive, get so much money in such a short amount of time and so forth, and then they found out that no, they don't even have enough money to leave, and they need to leave. They want to go back home, and so
right.
This is actually what I think a lot of people unfortunately also find in this part of the world when you're going from Syria to Turkey. I've heard from some people who live on the Turkish side of the border in refugee camps, and they're not happy. I mean, I don't want, obviously,
right.
for many reasons they're not happy, but even the status, the situation, the condition of the refugee camp is certainly not somewhere where a person wants to live, at least for any period of time. And the thing about inside Syria, somebody can live inside Syria, but obviously you're now living in a war zone. You're risking living in a place where any day you might your area might be bombed, or for example, the local bakery might be bombed, and now where you're going to get your bread from, and these types of concerns. So while you might have more stability in a place like Turkey, you don't necessarily have as much personal or financial security, and whereas what would be, I mean, and I hope, this is a, personal hope, but I think many people share this, that eventually the rebels will win. They will defeat Assad's army, and this will happen.
Don't call it the people.
I mean, the people. I never use even the term rebels. I just know the people here refer to them as rebels, so I will too. But in reality, these are just the people of Syria. They're not, just fighting even specifically for their group or whatever. They're fighting against Assad. This is they're fighting against this dictator. He's the tyrant, and it should be as simple as that. But the issue I'm saying is that after the Assad falls, I think many people are thinking, okay, after he falls, then we'll have a lot more times of ease and so forth. But what I believe needs to be done actually even before that happens, as soon as possible, today, if possible, is that people need to get back on their feet as soon as possible, obviously without thinking too utopic or too idealistic. Obviously, there's still going to be in a war zone tomorrow. So to think that, okay, if we give these people food and clothing and everything else, everything's going to be fine. No, they're still going to be in a war zone, but they're going to be in a war zone with dignity, and they're going to have a better standard of living while they're living in this war zone. And that will change, hopefully, the way that many people who deep down inside just want stability, don't want they don't really want any specific ideology, at least on the surface. They're not thinking, I want this or that or this or that. They just want stability. So some of them are thinking, well, it was today, it was nicer under Bashar and under Hafiz al-Assad and so forth. It was nicer then because we could, live in relative peace, even though we were living in a dictator. But if we can remove that idea from all of the people here and fight against the poverty that is here, so that people are at the very least in a similar situation financially that they were in, that would be a big improvement. And then if we can even make it better than that, we could solidify that these people will never want to return to something like they had 3+ years ago. That's the goal right now of, at least getting the message out to people about the news that we're going to be broadcasting and so forth. This is the goal is to motivate people to care about what's happening in Syria, but not from an agenda perspective. The only agenda is, help the people of Syria, help the situation. That's the only agenda. The agenda of help us to even achieve an Islamic state. This is not something that that Al Mujalla is about. Even the donations it's to help the people of Syria. Though I personally, and we mentioned before, I personally believe that the only thing that's left after Bashar goes is a government based upon the edicts of Islam. That's a personal belief, and I think it's shared by many people I know in this room and in this town and in this area of Syria. But beyond that point, like I said, that's just a personal belief I have. Al Mujalla is only about giving the information out there, putting the information out there, so that people can be motivated to help donate to the people of Syria.
Yeah, well, thanks to Vonvo for giving you a format.
Yeah, definitely.
I've had plenty of Skypes, but not with 2, 3 people and 14 people sitting around actually viewing the conversation. So I appreciate the format, and in some little way, Max is responsible for bringing us all together here today. So thanks to Max, thanks to Vonvo, thanks to everybody who came. Besides my family and my faith, there's nothing more important to me than Syria. So, that's why I got involved years ago, and I'll never stop.